Coming off the back of yesterday's Crystal Beast Mathmech deck, today we're playing around with Mathmech. Labrynth and Mathmech, a pretty interesting combo. The main sort of idea that sparked it, I believe, was of course somebody in the Discord, like normal, throwing around ideas where lovely Labrynth could protect your super factorial from being hit with the likes of Bestials, DD Crow, whatever. Because so long as Lovely is face up in your field, your opponent can't activate monster effects in response to your normal trap cards. That was a really sound idea, and I wanted to play around with it a little bit more. And this is the deck list we eventually ended up on. I actually believe we cut one Welcome Labrynth. And this is pretty much it. It's a little bit different to the Lab CB. Sorry, to the Crystal Beast Mathmech video, in that we are having to play a little bit more out of our way to put the Mathmechs in. So we are playing additional copies of Circular. We are also playing the Sigma as a fourth Mathmech target. Just in case you're left with a situation in hand where you aren't able to go into the full play or not able to do like the Allen version and everything from hand, but it also does mean that inherently your deck does have a lot more flexibility because of the Sigma when it comes to link-based plays and link-based strategies. So it does open the door in that regard. So it's different to the original, to the previous Mathmech video. I don't think it's necessarily worse. I do prefer the Crystal Beast version, but this is a different playstyle for people who prefer a little bit slower, a little bit more of a methodical gameplay. And of course, you still have all of the Labrynth cards, the Labrynth Control, Labrynth Pop, Labrynth Negate. So you still have all of that as well. So it's definitely a different build, a lot of fun playing it. And we have a lot of really cool games lined up, showing off some wins, some losses. And we are going to do a deck profile at the end for anybody unfamiliar with the cards. But yeah, if you're new to the channel and you want to catch more sort of goofy, fun decks like this, or maybe you want more competitive decks like our Punk Kashtira cards, like our Sword Soul Kashtira decks, like our Crystal Beast Mathmech, if you want more competitive decks as well, we do both. You can subscribe to the channel to catch the videos as they're coming out and like the video if you do enjoy watching. And lastly, if you've been around and maybe you enjoy the channel and you want to show that little bit more support and it's within your budget to do so, you can of course become a member as well. Every little bit helps get this channel going, and I really do appreciate all the support. Currently there are 5 members on the channel at the time of recording, and all 5 of you super appreciated, absolutely, and you will be the forerunners of the Converged as we continue to get this program moving. But if anybody else wants to join that progenital group with the Converged, you're more than welcome to do so. The button is right there. Having said that, if you don't want to, don't. You can just subscribe instead, that helps as well. But let's get into the gameplay. Already game 1, and we're seeing a lot of lab in this hand. We're going to set 2, we're going to pass just to see what our opponent has in store for us, and of course we come across the one clown playing Lightning Storm on the entire ladder. I haven't seen Lightning Storm in weeks, and we go in Duel 1 using Lab, and the first clown we come across is using Lightning Storm, and he also has called by for the maxi, so automatically we're looking at this game and we're thinking to ourselves, not great. Seen better. But either way, we're going to go for Labrynth here. Summoning it out to the field. We're going to go Welcome Labrynth, summoning out Ariana. Reason being, Ariana then is going to use her effect to try searching our deck for another card. He goes for the Imperm though, negating us Imperm, Lightning Storm, fucking called by the grave. What more could you possibly want going second? There is no way in hell he actually loses this game. Surely not. Anyways, we're going to go for Nadir's Servant. We're playing against Dogmatica, sending to the graveyard the Elder Entis. Going to pop our face down cards. Now, Big Welcome is no longer in the field, but it is in the graveyard, which is very useful because he's going to go for Dogmatica Matrix, and we're going to bounce that shit back to the hand. You can only activate it once per turn, so no Matrix for you, which means no Search 2, which means you're now running just as slow as I am. Into the end phase. This is all Master Rank gameplay, by the way, for anyone who's curious. We are going to go for the Labrynth field spell. Not a terrible draw, pretty good. We're going to go battle phase, beat thine ass, take out the Ecclesia, swing in with the lady. And this is just a good example of now, basically, what this game has devolved into just Labrynth control. Because what's going to happen here is Welcome Labrynth is going to start popping cards. We're going to get resetting trap cards. Ariana's going to draw us extra cards. We're going to get the bounce back Welcome Labrynth from the graveyard. And we're going to scale a crazy amount of advantage, and the reason I'm explaining that now is because I'm pretty sure our opponent doesn't stick around for very long. They activate the Matrix, they add Dogmatica Calamity to hand as well as Ecclesia, and then they scoop. Yeah, because they realize as much as I do exactly what's about to happen. We are about to decimate, not only destroy them and destroy their cards and their connection apparently, we're also going to generate crazy amounts of advantage of just the Labrynth cards. So I did want to show off that the deck can still do Labrynth stuff, as well as Mathmech stuff. So that's game 1. Let's get into game 2. Alrighty, into game 2, opening up with circular and diameter is not the greatest feeling in the world, but sending the Sigma to Grave is exactly meant for situations like this. We're able to bring these 2 cards back. We're going to go for the Super Factorial into Labrynth. Get Surgeon. Going to grab ourselves another card. We're going to grab a Nabla. Nabla is pretty decent. Diameter, though, going to bring back the circular from the graveyard, so we can now go into the Splash Mage, which is why we're playing the Link Summoning Engine. Splash Mage bringing back the Sigma. Going to use 2 now to go into the Decode Talker Heat Soul, and now the Sigma will, of course, become a Lingerebo after we draw a card. So we got a Trap Negate, we've got a fully live Super Factorial, we got Ace Dragon's Prison, we got Welcome's Labrynth. We got big Welcome Labrynth here. This is pretty fucking powerful. I am not going to lie to you, Chief. This shit is nasty. They are going to go for Cash Deer Unicorn. We're going to bring out Our Lady Labrynth of the Silver Castle. I was hesitant initially about trying to trigger off the Cash Deer Unicorn's effect, and then I realized that I don't care. It's going to banish a card from my extra deck. Whoop-de-fucking-do. I don't care. So, we're going to get into the field here. We're going to draw one, drawing another circular, whatever. It is what it is. We get the set D barrier to the field. Well, Big Welcome had the ability to grab us one of 2 things. It could have grabbed us either A, the little clock dork, the Coup Clock, or it could grab us Lovely. And on this occasion, I chose to go for Lovely because I wanted to make sure my Super Factorial was protected from the likes of Bestial. So absolutely, we bounce the Lady back to hand. We do misplay slightly here. There is a misplay here, which I'm going to cover as soon as it happens. That right there, that was a misplay. Reason being, of course, if we want to use Super Factorial, we need to have 3 monster zones open. We need to have 3. So right now, what we're now depending upon happening is him like destroying our Lingerebo. We're activating a trap card for us to trigger Lingerebo to get rid of it. To then open up 3 zones. He summons out the Ascend of the Thunder, going into the Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre, luckily being a psychic type monster, we're able to bring back Unicorn, banish both it and the Ghost Ogre, and bang bang bang, Scoop City. So you can see the difference in the Mathmech plays in this version, where we're not really focusing on the UDF, but rather we're trying to go into Heat Soul so that we can draw a bunch of extra cards. Lingerebo super useful for negating Evenly Matched in particular. Evenly Matched being negated is a huge part of why we run Lingerebo. It's not just a throw-in card. It 100% is useful because your deck doesn't have any inherent out to Evenly Matched unless you want to blow your load on Laplation right away, which isn't very fun. So that's why we play it the way we play it. I think Lingerebo definitely adds a lot to the deck, and I would recommend to most people to play it this way. That's why it's there. But either way, again, details don't matter. Let's get into game 3. I almost wasn't going to include this replay in the video. I wasn't sure. I'm pretty sure it opens relatively weak here. I think we make some basic mistakes when we're trying to play it. Or maybe we don't. Maybe that's a different video I'm thinking of. That may be Sprite Tri-Brigade spoilers for what's coming up. But basically, I was not going to include this game because it goes on. Playing against Tearlaments. Tearlaments, of course, at the minute, super fucking powerful. At the time of recording, it's super powerful. By the time you see this video, chances are this deck is banned, right? So this is like a legacy thing. They are going to go for Kit. Luckily, we got that Imperm on deck for the Kit. Imperm, beautiful card against Tearlaments in particular, so absolutely wanted to get the absolute living shit out of that. Now there's one line of text that actually really fucks me up in this game. We're going to go for the Coup Clock right off the bat. Normal summoning Ariana, setting the Welcome Labrynth so we can now use its effect. Ariana being met with Havness, but that's fine. Havness going to mill Mudora, which is a little bit annoying. Mills a Fenrir as well, which again, depending on his hand, is a little bit annoying. Silver Castle, gonna get shuffled back into the deck by the Tearlaments Crime. A lot of annoying stuff happening right now. Not really a lot we can do with this hand the way it is anymore. They are going to mill an additional set of cards. We can go for the Welcome Labrynth though, because we did activate the Coup Clock earlier in the turn, but Fairy Tale Snow is going to come out of the field and is going to flip Our Lady face down. That is annoying. We're going to go Big Welcome though, ditching that Kikalos before he can make any more fusions with it. So we're going to send that shit back to the extra deck. Now we're able to use our Chandelier, adding it back to hand, but Mudora has other things to say about that. Mudora is going to banish itself to shuffle back our Chandelier and 2 copies of Welcome Labrynth to prevent us from adding it back to our hand, I suppose. We're going to go into battle phase, take out the Halfness, just so there's one less card on his board, and then we're simply going to end our turn. Not exactly a fantastic look as far as we are concerned. We're going to normal summon the Kelbeck going into the Redoer. Interesting play considering they don't have any tier cards attached to it, but it does allow them to get over the Ariana at the very least. They're now going to use it to go into Zeus. Zeus now more than happily wiping the board. Going to send the face down Heartbeat to the graveyard to grab the Crime back from the grave. Excellent recycling technique from our opponent there. This man very clearly cares about the planet. But he doesn't set it, which tells me he doesn't have any tier limits monsters, of course. We're going to go straight to end phase because why wouldn't I? There's no real point in doing anything with this hand. I doubt he's going to be able to put enough attack points on board to finish us, but apparently he's just that guy. He has the Siren, but he doesn't mill anything useful. He has to banish cards for the snow here, not able to go for game. Look, we gambled on our opponent not being able to do it, and luckily for us the gamble paid off, but our opponent does have Baguska. That's pretty annoying, I'm not going to lie. But we do end up drawing Welcome Labrynth here. Remember, our opponent shuffled those back into our deck, which is good. I'm going to set a card, go for the Coup Clock. It's going to allow us to use the Welcome Labrynth, so summoning another copy of Ariane from the deck. The whole point of Ariane is to... ideally, she allows you to summon out your like Alambertian and get your whole Mathmech plays going, but on this occasion, because of Baguska, we obviously couldn't use her effect. And because we didn't have it... Well, we did have a trap, but you know what I mean. Now the thing about Welcome Labrynth that makes it annoying is that this card Fiend locks you, which actually does come up. We are just going to go with Baguska of our own. That means that we're on like a positive Baguska timer. Ours will be live longer than his, which gives us the freedom to choose when Baguska's effect stops. We're just going to turbo through the next couple of turns because I deliberately don't make any plays in order to keep my opponent at bay for as long as I possibly could. So this is almost just like our hard reset for the duel for the next few turns. Us just chilling, trying to draw a useful card. Drawing the Chandelier here, Chandelier at least being useful, but the Keldo is going to make quick work shuffling these cards back into the deck, but that's totally fine. We still get to set Welcome to the field, grabbing the Coup Clock back from the graveyard, which is something at least. His Baguska now getting destroyed, still under the effect of mine though, so still not able to go for the offense here. Going to go for Welcome Labrynth during the end phase of his turn, bringing out the lady. And yeah, we are switched to defense, of course, but that's fine. We're going to go Baguska, pops itself, that's fine. Coup Clock now going to activate, just in case we need to play something from the hand here. Our opponent, though, going to go for Fairy Tale Snow. We definitely should have set the Imperm first. Big mistake from us there. 100% should have set the Imperm. Unfortunately, it's too late to do it now, but we can just... Oh, that's right, I forgot. Yeah, we can literally just flip it back up, right? Because we summoned it last turn. So that was stupid. That was a waste, actually, in hindsight. Sending the Sigma, summoning the Circular, summoning out the Sigma here, and remember our card? Welcome Labrynth stops us from going for the Cybers play that would have won us the game. Big L. Can't even swing in and take out the snow, otherwise the Divine Zeus will get enough material to use its effect. Whoa, big L right there. Can't believe we forgot about the Fiend lock on the Welcome Labrynth. Unable to go into the Mathmech plays there. That's why we ended up cutting Labrynth down, because big Labrynth is much better because it doesn't Fiend lock you. That shit hurts my damn feelings. And from here, our opponent, of course, just having the Rhino Heart come back from the graveyard. They got the Merly and the Kit. Kit gonna send. It is gonna get negated here. We're gonna set another card to the field off of our lady. Kaleido Heart making its way out to the board. Kaleido Heart targeting the back row, sending it back to the deck. Kashtira Birth bringing back the Fenrir. Gonna link 5 into the fucking White Lady jump scare for no goddamn reason. That was just disrespect. Gonna draw themselves a little unicorn into the battle phase, taking out their cards with their Fenrir, and that is lethal. Very unfortunate. We fought for our damn lives in that duel. That shit was 13 turns long. We fought for our damn lives, and what fucked us up was the Fiend lock. Unfortunate. Like, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna cry about it? Get over it. It's an L. But anyways, valiant effort. Let's get into the deck profile. So, as you can tell from the previous match, there are a couple of sticking points. So there are 2 key cards that you need to be very aware of whenever you're making plays. Otherwise, you could fuck yourself over. That being Welcome Labrynth, and Mathmech Sigma. Mathmech Sigma locks you into Cybers. So you don't want to use this card while you still have any intention of making any Labrynth plays. Luckily, you tend not to make a ton of Labrynth plays on your own turn, so Sigma's lock is relatively low impact. However, Welcome Labrynth's lock is very high impact, because this card it removes your ability to summon any monsters from the deck or extra deck that aren't fiends until the end of the next turn. Which, of course, is very bad, right? That limits you quite heavily, and did in that last game actually cost us the game. So you do need to be very aware of that. It's not just during the turn in which it's used, it is until the end of the next turn. Alright, so let's break the deck down, of course, into its two primary components. Labrynth, Mathmech. Pretty simple. We'll talk briefly about the Mathmech cards first, just because the engine is much smaller, so we can get it done and out of the way. We're playing one Sigma, one Nabla, one Diameter, triple Circle this time, as well as the one Superfactorial. So why are we playing it like this compared to how we played it before? Well, we are taking steps in engine to allow Lab to go into the Labrynth a little bit more consistently than otherwise would have. But the steps taken don't always feel like they're enough. So what we did is we also tripled up on the circular to make sure that we always, or at least as often as possible, had the ability to go into our rank 4 plays. That is huge. And the three circulars definitely helped a lot. We unfortunately didn't get the resolve Ariane as much as I would have liked. It was a big sort of Ash target. They could hit Imperm. It didn't really resolve that consistently. I don't think we resolve in this video at all. But the idea behind this card, of course, was enabling the rank 4s. So we did take in archetype steps to enable it a little bit. But the Mathmech going to 3 is definitely very important. And compared to our last Mathmech video, we definitely included the Sigma so that we can expand the range of our plays far beyond what we were doing before. We're not relying on UDF this time because it's not quite as consistent. This time we're more so relying upon the link cards, and because I wanted to mix it up. You know, I didn't want 2 videos back to back having like the same end board, but you could realistically just play the UDF cards in here instead, and you wouldn't be missing much. Frankly speaking, there's a whole bunch of cards in here that are totally optional, that I don't think add very much to the deck at all. This is what I would say is like your core extra deck. If you wanted to add in the UDF cards, you absolutely could. In fact, I would probably encourage it. I just didn't want to play them 2 videos in a row. That's just me though. This is how I would likely play the extra deck in hindsight. Although again, not a ton of opportunities to go into these guys came up, so it's not as if we were missing out on anything major. But yeah, nonetheless. So the Sigma, because it can special summon itself basically free of charge, was significantly more useful in the context of this deck with like a lone circular or something like that, because we were able to go into the Labrynth plays a lot more consistently. However, it does Cybers lock you, which is why we lean more towards the Link side of things rather than the Exceed side of things. And then Lab is just Lab. We've got the Ku-Klux shenanigans, we've got the Lady, the Lovely, everything, just setting up a recurring dimensional barrier, summoning out monsters from deck all the time, bouncing cards back to the hand. In general, the deck's pretty awesome. So let's go through it card for card so that we have a decent idea of what we're playing with. We are, of course, in terms of hand traps, playing the classic Maxi package. We're playing the triple Maxi, triple Ash Blossom, double Call by, 1 Crossout. All of these cards are pretty damn awesome in their own right. We, of course, need to play Maxi. Ash Blossom, really good against Maxi, as well as a bunch of other cards. And then Call by and Crossout both negate Maxi, as well as helping you a lot against Ash Blossom, which this deck is more weak to than most. So that is worth bearing in mind that these 2 cards also serve that purpose. We're also running 3 Imperm, but that's less of a flex spot in this deck than it is in perhaps another, because it being a normal trap is actually very relevant to the deck. But we are playing it, so it is like a hand trap as well, which is awesome. So the Mathmech. Mathmech Sigma. If you use no monster in your extra monster zone, this card can special summon itself back from the graveyard, but it is banished when it next leaves the field, unless you use it as Exceed material. Nabla will tribute another Cybers monster to summon a Mathmech from the deck. Diameter on normal summon will bring back a level 4 Cybers Engrave, which we saw in the gameplay, which isn't an effect we actually ever used with the Crystal Beast version, but it did actually come in handy in this version. So Diameter being able to bring a card back is neat sometimes, but its main effect is that it's ever used for the summon of a Mathmech, Exceed, or Synchro monster, then that monster gains an Omni Negate during the turn on which it was summoned. So Diameter is dope. We got the Triple Circular, which is the primary starter. Normally you would just search for this card off of your Labrynth, which is just a generic rank 4 Exceed, but we definitely wanted to triple up on it just to maximize our chances of drawing it. You can special summon this card straight from your hand by sending a Mathmech from your deck to the graveyard, like the Sigma, or if you've got some plays, you can go for the Nabla instead if you don't want to Cyber Lock yourself, although that's less of a concern in this deck because you can very safely just leave the Cyber line until later in the turn. But it's entirely up to you, although most of the time you're going to do Sigma. Special summon this card out, and if another Mathmech card is special summoned to the field while this card is in the field, you get to search your deck for your Factorial, like Sigma. Factorial on the topic will target 3 Mathmechs with different names in your graveyard, special summon all 3 to the field, and then you will either Synchro Summon or Exceed Summon immediately. You will always Exceed Summon. The reason being, 3 of your 4 monsters are tuners, so you can't actually even Synchro Summon into the likes of Sigma, so you're going to Exceed Summon, and you're going to Exceed Summon into Laplation, which is an amazing card in the context of this deck. So that's absolutely dope. Factorial is amazing, and it's protected in this deck by Lovely. Let's talk about the Labrynth cards. We got the Double Coup Clock. I wanted to have this card in hand a little bit more consistently than normal, so I was playing it at 2. I would even consider playing it at 3, to be honest. This card is pretty decent for sure. We got the Double Torby and Double Chandelier. Again, if I were going to be modifying the deck at all, I would likely drop Labrynth to once, because I don't like it as much in this deck as Big Welcome, and I would likely bring Torby up to 3. Reason being, just so we can play this card more consistently. Torby and Chandelier both basically do the same thing. You can send these guys from hand or field to graveyard, and they will then, as well as an additional card from your hand, to set a Labrynth spell or trap directly from the deck. They can also bring themselves back if a monster is ever removed from the field by the effect of a normal trap. The Torby will summon itself to the field, and Chandelier will add itself back to the hand, both of which are pretty dope. We have the Ariane and Ariana. Ariane is a rank 4 Exceed magnet. This card will basically send a normal trap from your hand or field to the grave to special summon a level 4 fiend from your deck in defense. Normally the Ariane, because it will search your deck for a card. Then you can use those 2 in it for an Exceed summon into the likes of Labrynth and do your whole play. That was the idea behind this deck, is that I wanted to really take advantage of this card. But because we're playing so many monsters, we're naturally playing less trap cards, which means that the value isn't always there. So there is an inherent flaw in that strategy, but it's still sound enough in theory to work in a lot of games. I just didn't draw it very often in all of my testing, so I couldn't tell you for sure. But this card, it definitely, when it was working, it felt like it was working really, really well. So 100%, I think 3 Ariane is going to be one of the better ways to play this. Because remember, your furniture can also grab you cards. It just does cost you a little bit of card advantage, but it's fine. Ariana, of course, is going to replace one of your cards anyway when it's summoned by grabbing a Labrynth card from deck to hand. So it's not as if you're losing a ton of value. You're basically just trading one to set another one, right? So you can actually take advantage of that in setting like a big Welcome to Grave to the field, then sending it to grave off Ariane, and then using the Ariana to search your deck for a Welcome Labrynth. Now you've got this card on the field and this card in the graveyard to use this graveyard effect. So there are ways you can actually work it to your advantage. They also both have a common effect. They both share this effect, where if a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap while these cards are face up, you get to draw a card, and then you can either special summon a fiend from hand or set a spell or trap card from hand. So they both have that effect, which means if you have both of them face up while a card is removed, instant pot agreed, which is phenomenal. It doesn't often come up though, because like I said, you are using these guys for Exceed summons. You've got Circular, which we've already talked about. You've got Lovely. Lovely has a few effects. Number 1, your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to your normal trap cards. No Bestial, no DD Crow in response to your Super Factorial, so they got to be ready for it. It can also set a normal trap card from the graveyard back to the field. Recycle the Super Factorial. Recycle the D-Barrier. Recycle the Ice Dragon's Prison. Insane. So it can also bring back these cards where normally this is just a one-shot, a one-stop shop, and it's just as soon as you use it, it's done. So the reason we're doubling up on the Elixir Laplation, not only does it help play around Unicorn, you can actually use this card more than once, which is insane, right? And then its last effect, if a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap card, you can destroy a card either in your opponent's hand at random or one on their field of your choice. So this card is unironically probably the boss monster of the deck, in combination with the Mathmech cards, more so than the Lady. The Lady is still definitely very powerful, but it's not the centerpiece of this deck in particular. It's more so lovely. But we are still playing 2 copies of it, since it does have a number of really powerful effects. First and foremost, if you control a set card, this card cannot be targeted by or destroyed by card effects, making it pretty difficult to get rid of at 3000 and 2900 attack and defense respectively. If you activate a normal trap card while this card is face up, this card can chain to that in order to set any trap card you want directly to the field from the deck. So if your opponent finds a way to Ash or Imperm your Labrynth or do whatever to stop you from searching for your Super Factorial, you can still get access to it, which is pretty dope. Or more prominently, you can also get access to a bunch of really powerful trap cards like the mentioned Barrier and Ace Dragon's Prison, as well as maybe the Virus cards if you're so inclined. Although they're super bricky in this version, so I wouldn't play the Virus cards, but you can. And this card also, you can special summon this card from your hand during the turn in which you activate either a normal trap or the effect of a Labrynth monster. So this card's solid overall, really easy to summon, very flexible, tough to get rid of, huge stats, sets more traps from deck. I don't know what more you could want. This card is insane, for sure. We got the field spell. If you activate a set a Welcome Labrynth normal trap, get to pop a card, and the popping of the card is added to the resolution of that card's effect, which means, for example, if you activate Welcome Labrynth and your field spell allows you to pop a card, it counts as Welcome Labrynth popping a card, which means that your lovely Labrynth and your Labrynth twins all get their effects that activate whenever a card leaves the field by the effect of a trap card. So that's pretty dope. Also, if you activate a non-Labrynth normal trap, like Super Factorial, you get to bring back a Fiend monster from your hand or graveyard, which is solid. Being able to bring back Lovely in particular is very good, but Lady, of course, is a very solid target as well if it happens to be in your graveyard, but mainly for recycling your Lovely on a more consistent basis. Then we've got Welcome Labrynth, summon a Lab from deck, but it does Fiend lock you for the next 2 turns, so you really don't want to use this card until you've done everything. So I would play this at 1. It's more of a fallback option than a primary part of your combo. I would definitely not lean too heavily into it, like we did in our last game that cost us the game. It can also set itself back to the field if a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap, so that's pretty dope. And then we have Big Welcome Labrynth, which is more powerful in this deck. Basically, you can special summon a lab from deck, hand, or graveyard to the field, so it's a little bit more versatile, but you must return a monster you control back to the hand. That is actually useful in a lot of situations, because it will trigger the effects of all of your other lab cards. Very useful. It also has a secondary effect in the graveyard, where you can banish it from the grave to target either a monster you control, or if you have a level 8 Fiend on the field, a monster your opponent controls, bounce it back to hand. It doesn't have to be a monster, actually. It can be any card, but usually a monster, because you want to trigger off your effects, of course. Pretty dope card. And then we just have some general trap cards that can be set off of the Lady in the form of Ace Dragon's Prison. Steal a card from your opponent's graveyard, then banish it and an opponent's card of a matching attribute. Or D-Barrier. Lock your opponent out of either a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, or Pendulum. Pick a card type, can't be used. So the main deck is solid. Are there changes I would make? Probably. I feel like the deck needs a little bit more testing before I can call it complete per se, but I definitely feel like this is getting as close to a cohesive idea as you possibly could. There are going to be natural conflicts in the deck. I don't think those conflicts are enough to like remove the benefits of Lab and what they bring to the deck. Absolutely not. But I do think it's definitely a little bit more restrictive than the Crystal Beast version, that's for sure. And I know I keep comparing them, but that's just because they're both Mathmech strategies, so I inherently compare them. But yeah, that's the main deck. The extra deck, we're not going to spend too much time on because it is largely just Fury crafting, and we didn't use a ton of it. The main cards we use are, of course, the Labrynth and Laplation. Everything else we just sort of use whenever. We do actually employ the Link package a decent amount. So let's just go top to bottom. Chaos Angel, we never summoned it. Sigma, we never summoned it. Utopic Future Draco and the Gaga Magician we weren't actually playing, but in hindsight I would play these for sure because the cards we had in those card spots were garbage. They were mainly just filler for fun. But I would definitely play these guys instead for sure. Similar to our last video, you can watch our last video for an idea as to how that combo goes, because it plays the exact same way in this. You see a wee button up top to explain that in our Crystal Beast Mathmech video. We have Abyss Dweller, decent rank 4 exceed. Once per turn, detaching materials, a quick effect. Locks your opponent out of using graveyard effects that turn. Solid in some matchups, useless in others. It is going to decrease in value post-tier ban list, and by the time this video goes up I think that ban list is actually going to be live, so this card might already not be as useful, but it is still a decent tool to have in your tool belt. We got Baguska. Baguska will lock up the whole field as long as he's in defense. Everything else is in defense and they cannot activate their effects. You saw it in the gameplay, everybody knows this card, it's annoying as hell. Laplation and Labrynth doubling up on the Prime Mathmechs. Why is that? Well, Labrynth is going to be one of your main pathways into your Mathmech plays by detaching 2 materials on summon in order to search your deck for a Mathmech card, namely your Circular, in order to get it to activate the rest of its plays. If you search for Circular through the Labrynth, you can actually set up your whole play without using Sigma, so you don't actually cyber slot yourself. So that is worth bearing in mind. This card can also tribute itself, or another monster actually, to bring back any level 4 Mathmech monster from the graveyard, which is primarily how you're going to set up the Utopic Draco Future package. Again, check the previous video for that whole combo. But yeah, pretty awesome effect overall. Laplation, on summon, detach up to 3 materials, and your opponent then has to drop that many cards, 1 monster, 1 spell trap, and then 1 card from hand, as many as is applicable. It also gains an Omni Negate from the Diameter. So that's the Laplation and the Labrynth. These cards are awesome. We didn't actually get to feature them in this video, unfortunately. We were going to summon Laplation and then our opponent surrendered. And that happened a lot during the gameplay, where we would put ourselves in that position, we flip up Factorial, and as soon as we do, our opponent just scoops. So again, I just sort of stopped looking for replays after a while, because everybody was just surrendering whenever I flipped the Super Factorial. And then the Link package. This Link package I think is really powerful. Lingarebo, Splash Mage, Decode, and Access Code. Not only does it give you the ability to push for Lethal here, as well as pop a bunch of cards off of his effect, even just having the draw 2 off the Heat Soul and the Lingarebo protecting you from Evenly Matched by itself is huge. I think those traits alone are enough reason to run this particular lineup of Link monsters, but what specifically you want to run is up to you. Lingarebo is a Link 1 you can summon using any Cyberse monster, contribute itself to negate a trap card. Splash Mage can bring back a Cyberse monster from the graveyard. Decode Talker Heat Soul once per turn as a quick effect can pay 1,000 life points to draw a card, so it basically just draws cards. And Access Code, of course, boosts itself up by 1,000 multiplied by the Link rating of one of its materials, and can banish Link monsters of different attributes from the graveyard to ban it to destroy cards your opponent controls. So he's huge, pops cards, and beats ass. And that's the full deck list. There's not really much else to talk about. It definitely does take a little bit of practice in playing around with the cards that lock you. They're a little bit less cohesive than the Crystal Beast strategy, but in exchange for that cohesiveness, the power and the surprise factor that you can hit them with off of a Lovely, because even just having Lovely around and Lady, these cards inherently help you win the long game. So your Laplation sort of taking almost like a shortcut to the long game by immediately sniping 2 to 3 cards out of your opponent's possession while also giving you an Omni Negate is almost basically like cheating. It's helping you speed up your way to the simplified game state, in which Labrynth absolutely crushes. So I think there is definitely a lot here. There is definitely a strategy here. I did enjoy playing it, and I will be playing it again because I feel like I do need to refine it a little bit more. But all in all, this is going to be approximating the final product, at least as far as I can see. So if anyone has any ideas or changes or anything they'd like to say about the deck, or things they'd like to change about it, or maybe just didn't like it, throw in the comments down below. Absolutely. Like the video if you got this far and you actually enjoyed watching. Become a member if you are so inclined and have the ability to do so. And I'll see you next time. Bye bye.